Hello everyone, I am Hiral Vaitha and for the academic purpose and on the YBE introductory presentation, I am going to deal with the introduction of WBE and my partners will be Riya Bhatt and Hardi Vera. So here are some points to ponder and I am going to deal with introduction of WBA. His full name was William Butler Yeats. His born date was June of 13, 1865. He was an Irish poet and dramatist and prose writer, one of the greatest English language poets of the 20th century, Nobel Prize winner of literature in 1923. So I'm going to deal with his genre, themes, and symbolism, and also going to discuss his some of famous works. So in the genre, I'm going to discuss Irish literary revival, symbolism, and romanticism, and modernism also. So in his work and his style of genre, like he's discussed Irish literary revival, and he was a central figure in the Irish literary revival, which sought to revive and promote Irish literature, language, and culture. Many of his early works were inspired by Irish folklore, mythological, and history. So, in the symbolism in his work, it was associated with the symbolist movement, which emphasized the use of symbols and metaphors to convey emotions and ideas. His poetry often features complex symbolism and the imaginary. In the Romanticism, he also mentioned that early poetry was influenced by Romanticism with a focus on emotion, nature, and senses of the sublime. As his career progressed, in his style evolved the elements of Romanticism and remained in his afterwork. In the modernism, uh, later stages of his career, he translated towards modernist poetry. His experimentation with form and style became more pronounced, and his poetry reflected the changing literary landscape of the early of 20th century. And for furthermore, I'm going to discuss themes in his work. So, in the Irish nationalism, he was deeply committed to the cause of Irish nationalism and independence. Many of his poems are imbued with a sense of Irish identity and dwelling on Irish folklore and mythology and history also. His commitment to Irish cause is evident in poems like Easter 1916. In the aging and time, he's also mentioned that passage of time and inevitability of aging are recurring the themes in his poetry. He grapples with the idea of morality and the fleeting nature of life. In poems such as Sailing by Benjamin and The Wild Ones at School, in the point of political and societal commentary, he lived during a period of significant political and social upheaval in Ireland. Works often engaged with the political landscape of his time, and he also addressing some of issues such as nationalism, revolution, and the search of stability in society. So, in the symbolism in his work and his poetry, so the mask is the symbol. So, masks are used as a symbolism in his poetry to represent different aspects of the identity, person, and the concealment. The idea of removing the mask can signify the search for authority and also authenticity and the self discovery also. In the poem, he discussed all the things. In the floors of heaven, In the poem, he wishes for the clothes of heaven, the clothes that symbolize the precious and personal gift that a seeker wishes to give his beloved, and it's a metaphor for the poet's aspirations and desires. So, in the next isle of Innisfree, he discussed in this poem the small island of Innisfree symbolized a tranquil and idyllic escape from the hustle and bustle of modern life, reflecting deep desire for the simplicity and connection with the nature. So, furthermore, discussing the famous work of WBA, I am inviting my partner.
Hello everyone, myself Hardi Vora, and I'm going to deal with W.B. Yeats, one of the famous works on being asked for a war poem. This poem has a 6 lines, and we we can divide it in two parts. First part is I think it better that in times like this, a poet's mouth be silent, foreign truths we have no gift to set a statesman right. So, in this first part, Yeats expressed the belief that silence is a performable, preferable stance for a poet during challenging times, and also asserting that poets lack of the ability to guide or advise statesmen effectively. In the second part, uh, he has had enough of meddling. Who can please a young girl in the indolence of her youth, or an old man upon a winter's night? Uh, in the second part, this line implies that the poet finds more meaningful purpose in the ability of bring joy to individuals in the simpler personal moments, such as pleasing a young girl or confronting an old man during winter's night. Introduction of the poem. Uh, this poem, written on February 6, 1915, in response to a request by Henry James that Yeats compose a political poem about World War One. It's it's one of the Yeats' shortest and well-known poems, comprising just 6 lines, and sets out why Yeats chooses not to write a war poem for a publication. He changed the poem's title from To a Friend Who Has Asked Me to sign his manifesto to the nation to a reason for a keeping silent. Before sending it in a letter to James, which he wrote School Park, School Park on August 20, 1915, the poem was preferred prefaced with a note stating, it is the only thing I have written of the war or will write, so I hope it may not seem unfitting. The poem was firstly published in English Watson, the book of the homeless in 1916 as a reason for keeping silent. When it was later reprinted in the Wild Swans of Fool. The title was changed to on being asked for a war poem. The analysis of the poem, Yeats is a one of Yeats in one on, on being asked for a war poem expresses the belief that during turbulent times, poets should refrain from political commentary and the political commentary as their skills are better suited for personal and timelessness themes. The poem suggested that statesmen have their own complexities and poets might lack of ability to guide them. Instead, here, each highlights the poet's potential to bring solace and joy to individuals, whether young or old, in moments of leisure or for contemplation. The emphasis lies on the poet's role in addressing universal human experiences rather than engaging in the political discourse of the time. There are major five themes of the poem. First one is silence of the poet during troubled times. Second one is lack of poetic influence or statesmanship. Third one is emphasizing on the statesman's experience over poetic intervention. Fourth one is a reference to pleasing a young girl in her youth. And the last one, symbolizing of a confronting an old man on a winter night. Furthermore, next work I will invite Vijay.
Okay, so very good afternoon to all of you. On the presentation of WBU, I'm going to present his poem, The Second Coming. The Coming was a poem which is written by Yeats in 1990 and firstly published in 1920. And after included in poem in the after first printed in the Dial in November 1920 and afterward included in 1921 collection of verses Michael Roberts and the Dancer. The poem uses the Christian imaginary regarding the apocalypse, apocalypse and second coming to allegorically describe the atmosphere of the post-war Europe. It is
Okay, so this is second stanza, in which we find that some kind of revelation has happened soon, and the second coming itself must be close. Exactly, the speaker exclaims the second coming, but just as the speaker says this, a vision comes to the speaker from world's collective unconsciousness. The speaker sees a barren desert land where a creature with man's head and lion's body is coming to life. Its expression is like sun, empty and without pity. Its legs are moving slowly, and all around it lies and the shadows of disturbed desert birds. Everything becomes dark again, but the speaker knows that something new. 2,000 years of calm have been disturbed by shaking of the cradle. The speaker asks, what we whose time has finally come, and dragging itself towards Bedlam, where it will be born. uh, this analysis, in which we find that the foreboding, unsetting, marked by images of decay and disorder, and key points in that we find that in a first line, turning and winding gate, in which we find that references of Yeats' cyclical theory of history, suggesting society's collapse and potential rebirth. In the second, we find that things fall apart, the center cannot hold. Entire symbol of crumbling societal order and loss of control. And later we find that mere anarchy loosed upon the world. That we find that first stanza in line in first stanza, which foreshadows utter chaos and loss of morality. And the last, best luck, all conviction, while the first are full of passionate intensity, which highlights the erosion of values and rise of fanaticism. Atmosphere in a second stanza, filled with chilling imaginary and a sense of dread. And we find that surely some revelation is at hand, reinforce the feeling of an imminent upheaval. The second coming creates ambiguity, and Jesus returns certainty. I can help you craft conclusion. These are the themes that we find in the second coming: civilization, chaos and control, and morality and Christianity. The morality and Christianity also use a symbol in this poem. In conclusion, that we find W.B. Yeats' poem on being asked for a war poem and the second coming resonate with timeless themes of societal upheaval and cyclical nature of history. Though vivid imaginary and symbolic language, Yeats explores the chaos and uncertainties of his era, inviting readers to reflect on the border of humanity and condition. On being asked for a war poem, conveys the poet's really, uh, really reluctance of romanticized war, while the second coming deals with into ideas of a war spiraling into a disorder. Together, those poems served as poignant reflections of complexities of the human experiences, leaving readers to ponder and enduring relevance of Yeats' insight and our ever-changing world. This is a quote from Yeats: "A painter's brush consumes his dreams." These are citations, and thank you.